So last night there was a half moon, and I was staring at the moon and the stars. When I started to do that, all the clouds went away, which is nice. And I see the tetrahedron, guys. So on the sixth day, Venus, Mercury, Moon were created. Moon is the last luminary, okay? It's the furthest away from the inside walls of the beach ball because it's in the central celestial glass sphere, let's say. But that's not true, because when something's created, it's all created at once. A 1 is a 3, which means the 3 luminaries were created exactly as depicted on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album. So you have the 3 corners of your triangle. We're all going to be luminaries. Let's say this one's the moon. 3 makes 4 makes 3 makes 4 makes 5, guys. Spicy pie. What that means is that there is a one-dimensional line now going between, creating a 4, and a one-dimensional line is going through, creating a, top and bottom to create a 3-dimensional tetrahedron 5, right? So what's happening? If this is the moon, and the moon is the last luminary created, that means it would be the most luminescent luminary because it is the last luminary before heaven. Now, what is heaven? If I'm depicting a tetrahedron, is heaven a singularity, like I've always said? It's not. It's a one-dimensional line. Because it's a one-dimensional line created to do a top and bottom triangle-based pyramid. Okay? So if this is your moon, well, sometimes Mercury will get in front of it and give it a half moon, and as it's turning, sometimes you don't see it, sometimes you see a full moon, sometimes you see a half cut of it from the left side, sometimes you see a half cut out of it from the right side, sometimes you see a full moon. It all depends on the rotation. My arm doesn't really turn very well, but you understand what I'm saying? Okay? That's the moon phases, okay? Man has never been to the moon. That is bullshit. Yeah, that's what I think about that. Cheers. So in more scientific words, basically what's happening is either destructive interference or phase cancellation. So that's why you still see the ring of the moon, but you see like a black hole taken out of it. Okay? It's phase cancellation or destructive interference. You can do the same experiment in a lab. Okay, like using polarized light or something. The moon and the phases of the moon. There you go, guys. Now think about Islam. That's moon worship. Okay? Now think about it this way. If the way out, because we have to make a V. Jesus says we have to make the V, right? And behind Jesus' head is the moon. Okay? So if our soul comes from a star somewhere in the sky, mine may be from somewhere in Orion. My soul came to the walls of the beach ball, Earth, and I'm living presently in the flesh. That is being at one with self. That is the combination of the flesh and the soul, depicting an 11, let's say. But Jesus says you need to make the V, and he always has the moon behind his head. So I think what we need to do is go from our star to the earth in the flesh and get out via the moon. Now Islam depicts the crescent moon, which means the sliver of the moon, which means that either Venus or Mercury are in front of it, causing phase cancellation, destructive interference type deal. Thus making it harder, to get out, because the window is smaller. It's a crescent, and when you block out most of the light and only have a sliver of light left, then you're going to have a really bright sliver of light. So it just means it's like a depiction of making it harder to get out. They don't want us to make the V, guys. But their signs and symbols can just be looked at upside down, backwards, and flipped. So using the zodiac depiction I made earlier, so saying that your soul originates from here, it goes across the line of balance to where you were born in the flesh, which is depiction of one with self, because that's a one-dimensional line in a circle. Okay? Doesn't matter where you are in the Vesica Pisces, which is the triple circle, or the triple eight, because we live in a world with duality, and an 8 has 2 circles in it. Understand the Vesica Pisces? So, if we're going from a dot to create a line, and then we have to go to the moon to make a V, it's like a 1, 1, 0, 110. Surprising, eh? You know, like a 0 and a 0, but it's really just a 1 and a 1 of a 0. You know, they're both zeros, but they're making 2 1s. 110.